All right, good Monday afternoon, everybody. I'm Crystal Holloman here with Tim Staudt. How was your weekend?
I can't even remember. It's the first Christmas weekend of the month, so you always have things to do, especially if you've got a busy month ahead. Busy thing. I only watched really one game. I watched Alabama and
Georgia?
Georgia. That was pretty much it.
It's a pretty good one to watch, at
Yeah.
least. So, speaking about that, we're going to talk a little bit
And I
about.
watched Oregon and Washington.
Oh, that was a good one, too.
The Michigan game was awful.
It was. I
Awful.
feel a little bit bad for that Iowa City bar that was offering free drinks until Iowa scored. You were right, though. You called it. You said you didn't think Iowa was
never
going to
score.
score on Michigan, and I said you
Never
were
sure.
wrong.
How they ever won 10 games should be in the Guinness Book of Records. Believe it or not, these guys won 10 games. How can you pay all those offensive coaches all year long, over and over? It's all they do is work with those Division One players, and it's such a challenge for you. I mean, and yet they scored 26 on Michigan State.
Wow.
Now you know why State was 4-8.
Exactly. So, what were your thoughts following the selection?
There's two ways to look at it, and it's whatever you believe. But to me, this is simple. First of all, it won't be a problem next year. You got 12 teams,
Right.
so it's a one-year problem. So Saturday night, when all the games are over, you go to bed. You say, "There's no matter what this committee does, no matter what it does, somebody's furious." It can either be the Southeastern Conference or it can be the Atlantic Coast Conference. One way or the other, somebody's furious because 5 doesn't go into 4. So if you believe individually that you should make the Final Four on the whole season's body of work, then that favors Florida State. They won all their games. If you believe, separate from that, that the Final Four should be by the eyeball test the best 4 teams in America, then Florida State's out, and you can make a case for both Alabama and Georgia. So it isn't what I think, it's what somebody else thinks is the criteria that you should use. So if you think you should get the 4 best teams that are in there, then because they don't have their core, and he's a factor. If he was playing, then they're one of, in my opinion, they're one of the 4 best because they're very good defensively.
The Florida State. Yeah.
But if you think, well, no, at the end of the year, who are the 4 best through the whole season? Okay, then you can make a case. You can make a case not for them because they've lost their key component. And for that matter, to me, they're in my opinion, the 2 best teams in America right now are Alabama and Georgia. Those are the 2 best teams in America. Well, but it's like the NCAA basketball tournament. The best team in basketball doesn't always win the NCAA tournament. A lot of times you get knocked out along the way. You had a bad
Sometimes you
game.
get knocked out first round.
Yeah, the number 1 seed last year, Purdue, got beaten the first game by Fairleigh Dickinson. Even though they're a better team than Fairleigh Dickinson, on the night they played, they couldn't beat them. So football, it's a bit like, but this won't happen next year. If you have the same setup next year, you got 12 teams. So, in my opinion, I understand Florida State's plight, but they would have run the risk, in my opinion, of getting crushed in the semifinal with someone. Look, it's an unfortunate situation they were in. That's the risk of football. When you lose your quarterback in this sport, I mean, especially as good as he is, and you lose the guy, and hey, they barely beat Louisville. You can argue that Alabama barely beat Auburn, but they beat the number 1 team in the country and won 29 straight games. But I don't like to argue that stuff. I say it's whatever you think it should be, that criteria or that criteria. And nobody's wrong. In my opinion, nobody's wrong, but you can only take 4.
So, do you think Florida State made a mistake announcing that their quarterback was out for the year? Should they have kept that?
No, you already saw him out for the year. He didn't play.
But should they have said, hey, he's
No.
week to week, he's week to week? Because that might discourage teams from saying
Well, no,
in the
because
future
at,
their
no,
quarterback's
because at
hurt.
that point they didn't know if they were going to finish undefeated. And at that point, look, if Georgia would have beat Alabama, that would have solved the problem, but they didn't do it. If Washington would have lost Oregon, it would have complicated everything even further. Texas could have lost Oklahoma State, and then that knocks them out. So, most years this stuff kind of plays itself out with the conference championships. But this year,
What about Georgia falling so far after that one loss? to
well,
Alabama?
you knew they weren't going to be in the top 4.
Right.
Okay, so 5, is probably going to be 13-0 Florida State. So that didn't, it's a heck of an Orange Bowl game. But now, do either teams care? And do the star players pull out of the game? Already, we've had several stars. Caleb Williams, a Heisman winner, he's not playing for Southern Cal. To me, the bowl season is so outdated because if the star players don't want to play, why play? It's like happened to Michigan State when it played Pittsburgh in the Peach Bowl. Kenneth Walker didn't play, and Kenny Pickett, the Pitt quarterback, didn't play. Well, those aren't the teams that made it there. That's why, to me, the bowl, they're hard. Ohio State's quarterback, he's in a portal today.
Yes,
Caleb Williams of Southern Cal says, I'm not playing another game for these guys. I want to get ready for the NFL draft, and I don't want to get hurt in a meaningless game against Louisville.
Right.
So that's what college football's come to.
Well, we did have a poll. We actually still have it up on our homepage, WIX.com. As a Michigan fan, would you rather have U of M play Alabama or Florida State? And right now it is 67% Florida State, most likely because it would be an easier win.
Be 101%.
32 Alabama. And we know that only equals 39, but we're trying to fix that
So
part.
you're telling me that 1 out of 3 respondents would prefer to play Alabama?
That's what they're saying.
There's an old saying in life, be careful what you wish for. I think Nick smells blood in the water.
Really?
He's got 4 weeks. If they played this Saturday, I think Michigan would have a better shot because Michigan had no pressure playing Iowa, and Alabama had to leave it all on the table emotionally to get past Georgia. But now they get 4 weeks to recover, and trust me. And the other thing that hurts Michigan, in my opinion, is they're favored.
They are?
You want to be an underdog. You don't want to be favored. You want to be an underdog.
They're a favorite, but a lot of people don't want them to win, which is interesting.
Well, if you don't like Michigan, somebody, this is, you don't have America's 2 most popular coaches going at it, but somebody's going to win and move on. I think Alabama's going to be tough to beat. If it was played Saturday, but it isn't.
Not.
They got 4, and by the way, this ain't Iowa and Indiana and Purdue you're playing.
No.
These guys, this is a different breed you're playing, and this coach is this guy. Look, it ought to be a great game.
It should. Michigan lately has not been great against SEC teams, though.
Well, there are SEC teams, and then there's Alabama and Georgia. Just like there's Big Ten teams, and then there's Michigan and Ohio State.
True.
So to me, you can't judge them all equally across the board. I think Michigan's going to have a hard time moving the ball, though. They had a hard time moving it against Iowa. That doesn't mean they can't play better. They better play better. They're going to need, to me, I think defensively they're all right, but they're going to have to move the ball in Alabama, and they got to have one whale of a game out of McCarthy, and those 2 running backs are going to – they only got 66 yards against Iowa. Iowa's okay, but they ain't Alabama. And look, for Georgia, this is a tough life, man. They won 29 straight games, and they lose 1, and they're in the Orange Bowl. It's a jungle out there.
It is. Welcome to college football.
And by the way, see how Florida State does against Georgia. Now, again, I don't know all the players that may pull out of that game. That Keon Clark Keon Coleman from Michigan State, the receiver, I don't picture him playing in the Orange Bowl. His whole thing when he left Michigan State, was to get to the NFL, and he had a great year at Florida State. But it hasn't been as good without his quarterback.
Right.
And not only that, they don't have the second guy, they have the third guy.
What could have been if they had their first string quarterback.
And by the way, anybody that goes on that poll that comes in, find out who it is and send it back and say, are you out of your ever-loving mind?
It's anonymous.
You'd rather play Alabama than Florida State?
We do have some of the comments on our Facebook post about
Michigan
this poll.
People aren't that dumb. You know that.
I do.
They're not that dumb, are they, or are they?
Maybe they want to beat Alabama.
Well,
and they're that confident that they're going to play them. Florida State would be an easy win.
If you watched the Michigan team getting the news yesterday on the ballroom floor in Indianapolis and sitting there, it was almost like they got somebody passed away who was in a whatever. Let's just say nobody was bouncing up and down because they had to fear we get Bama. I think they'll have a tough time. I think they can beat Washington. Texas, to me, it's 50-50.
I will say Texas had the best reaction to the announcement yesterday. Florida State was heartbreaking.
Look, of those 4 for Texas, you want to play in my opinion. You want, I don't mean you're going to win, but
No.
to me, you got your best shot against Washington.
Oh, absolutely.
But and you realize if Alabama and Texas win, it's a rematch from earlier in the year. And let me
Yes.
if you think the Mafia has revenge on its mind, Saban
Saban's got
has
revenge.
on his
Longhorns
mind.
win in
Well,
there.
he's got revenge against Michigan too, because Michigan gave him a hard time when he was here. Don't worry.
They did? I don't recall.
It'll be.
It got dirty last week though with the Longhorn on the lawn at always. It got dirty, but that's where we're at. So
This'll again, next year, you're going to have 12 of them in it. It'll be better in the bowl system the way it is. Now, some of these bowl games, I mean, Minnesota's 5-7. You can tell.
and they're playing in the Quick
go
Lane Bowl,
call
right?
somebody at Ford Field and tell them, hey, tell all those employees you're going to have the day off. You need one ticket taker, and he or she will not be busy.
And one concession stand, maybe.
If you need that.
Yeah.
Or have somebody outside selling 5-cent lemonade, because there are not going to be many there for Bowling Green.
I think some people from Bowling Green might come out.
Maybe.
It's just a straight shut up.
Maybe.
I mean, why not?
Maybe. I mean,
We'll see.
I mean, the Quick Lane thinks they sell a lot of their products out of the Quick Lane Bowl. I mean, at least before they had teams that at least had a 500 record. Now you got a losing team in there because the bowl system. I mean, it's just so goofy. I mean,
It is.
It just, but you can
As
bet
you can
it.
see behind us.
I mean, you can bet it.
That's pretty much what Harbaugh said was bet.
You can bet it.
He just admitted he didn't know what it meant, but that's what he said. All right, so that's what we got today. Join us tomorrow. We'll be talking
All
about
right.
Michigan State basketball hosting Wisconsin
Well, that's a
on
big one.
Tuesday night.
Yeah.